Welcome to Business Talk Sister Talk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And today we are going to be talking about how to use a consistent brand to create value. Mm-hmm. Now, last week we were discussing why a brand has value. So now we're going to talk about how you can start creating value with consistency in your own brand. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about how that creates value, but what overall is the purpose of branding?
Yeah, so the overall purpose of consistency is so that it doesn't detract from those things. So you're just kind of creating that same voice, and that was a quote from Marketing 9-1. And I feel like maybe it's actually Marketing 911. I just wrote Marketing 9-1. But anyway, so that it does not detract from the core values, brand strategy, fundamentals, and foundation of the brand. And that can be anything from the tone of the brand, the consistency of the logo, the brand colors, the frequency in which you post, the type of content that you post, the type of, just like things that you are distributing out to the world, the type of product that you use, the quality of product that you use, like all of that is considered your brand, your reputation, your brand. So all of that is kind of encompassed. Mm-hmm. But why should you keep your brand's tone and personality consistent across all channels, Becca?
Oh, because it's important to help people understand who you are. If you use a brand that is very just straight and no nonsense on one platform, and then you get way off on the other end of just crazy and disjointed on another brand platform. So say like you're super professional on LinkedIn and then everything on Facebook is like completely different. It's hard for people to be like, is this the same person? Mm-hmm. Is this the same company? So it's important to keep that tone similar. Now, I would say that would be the extreme. I do think that it's important to be a little bit more professional on LinkedIn than it is on Facebook, because Facebook is more for social sharing and fun. And you can, but the tone needs to be the same in terms of the personality. You can't just be bipolar brands, right? Mm-hmm. Because that consistency develops trust. A lot of times, especially when you're working with people and they've never heard of you before, one of the very first things they're going to do is go look up your website or your Facebook page and figure out what you're all about. And commonly what happens after that is they scroll through your pictures because they want to see who you are. And when that's happening, if you have really inconsistent information about what you do or why, what you're sharing, what you're selling, whatever, they're going to have an unclear picture of how you can bring value to them. So I know Ruthie was talking a little bit about this when we originally talked about making an episode on consistent branding. She was like, oh yeah, somebody just did that recently, did an entire rebrand, and it totally threw me off. You're going to have to tell me about that because I don't know who you were talking about.
Yeah, so Thrivent Financial, love them. They're very good. I've used them for many years now with my different investments and things like that, but they went through a rebrand. And then I kept getting all of these emails. It was like straight to trash, straight to trash, straight to trash. And then I got a letter in the mail that was like, hey, we're going through a rebrand. And I was like, oh no. And I was like, man, I thought that was all spam. I literally didn't even read the emails. I was just like, that's not Thrivent branding. So I just threw it in the trash. And then I had to go back through and do a little recon. But I just thought that was a good way of going about it. And that, like, yes, because I was a little ignorant to it, but they went through the processes that they need to kind of inform people. And I think that's something that Facebook does a lot, is every time they rebrand, first of all, it's not a drastic rebrand. It's maybe like a shade different in their coloring that they use or whatever. And then they'll use like a slightly different logo, but then they talk about it a ton. Like they we're trying a new look, or we're laying out this differently, or whatever. And obviously, like, Facebook can kind of get away with things like that more because you're always going to know what Facebook is. But for your company, when you think about if you have had the same logo for a long time and you're like, well, let's do a massive overhaul and change up everything, change up our entire website, just be really strategic in how you go about that. Because if all of a sudden, like, your customers are really used to going to your website and the whole thing is a black one-page website, and suddenly you're like, oh, we should probably make our website look a little bit better, and you make it into really colorful, there's lots of pictures, there's like multiple pages, and you just did this entirely new thing, someone's going to go to your site and be like, this is not the right one, and then probably leave. So you need to, if you do a massive rebrand or something like that, or you get a new website, it's important to note that on your website. Like, hey, we are brand new, or maybe even include a screenshot of your old site. I've seen people do that before. This is our old site. Check out our new fresh look and whatever, and just kind of just really make sure that you're engaging those people who are like, what did I just stumble upon? Is this the same company? And then the same thing with your logo too, like putting that across your Facebook channels before you even overhaul everything, like of just like, this is our new logo and this is when we're going to change it, and kind of building that so that when people, if you add a new logo to your Facebook page and people come to your page, then they see all that content that you've been submitting and saying, we're changing this, we're doing whatever. And another thing that I was going to say too about consistency and voice is that's why it's really important to either one, have your whole team on the same page. Like, I know we've talked about brand manuals before, but either one, you should have a really good brand manual, which is very inclusive. That's got all of your colors, your logos, your style, your type of photos that you want, any filters that you use, any fonts that you use, like having that all included in your brand manual. But then also just what I would recommend is having, I mean, this is kind of varying from company to company, so take this with a grain of salt, but it might be a good idea to have only one person running your marketing channels. Then obviously as you get bigger, you kind of need to expand that, but especially when you first start out, that one person is going to know the ins and outs of all the different things that they've posted and all the different things that they've been curating this whole time. So it's a good idea to kind of have one person head that up, especially to begin with, so they can kind of get their vibe and get like, this is what we're going towards as a company, and this is what we want to be consistently, and then other people can jump on that. Okay. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because you're like, have one person manage all of your channels. Okay, so like we decided, we were going to be a little trusting and let our sister Mia start posting to our Instagram. She has like our Instagram access, and one day, I kid you not, like, first of all, this is partially my fault because I did not go over our brand manual with her. And I was just like, well, just take pictures of stuff and send it to me, and I'll let you know if it's okay to post. Okay, but she took that as I should take pictures of stuff and post it to the Instagram account and then let you know that it's posted. And she literally texts me and she's like, hey, I found this dead bumblebee today. I took a picture of it and posted it on the Business Talk Sister Talk Instagram. And then literally the caption was dead bug. Like, oh no.
Oh, okay, take that down. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I was that's not part of the brand. That doesn't have anything to do with business. It doesn't have anything to do with us as like sisters. It was so funny. And I immediately went there, took it down, and was like, okay, we need to re-strategize how we go about this.
Yeah. And then someone else that I think does a really good job with like tone of things. This was something our intern Darby, amazing, she's the best. We went to Glen Sheen Mansion together in Duluth, and whoever does
work party without me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do when there's 3 people. But we went to Glensheen, and whoever writes like their little signs and stuff, hilarious. They're so funny. They're just super snarky. And so they had like they do different themes every now and then. Like Christmas, they'll do like the elf on the shelf theme, and then you like go through and you have to find the different elves or whatever that are hidden all over the place. But for some reason, and we didn't go inside, it was like an outdoor nighttime thing, whatever. Anyway, but for some reason now it's sharks. That's the theme. um so there's like little,
it's on Lake Superior, there are no sharks.
exactly, yeah. But anyway, so then there's like all these different sharks hidden all over the place, but there was this like massive shark that's like made of wood, and it's all like, I don't know, like nailed together and everything like that. And it looks, it's decently tasteful, but it's like in the backyard of Glensheen Mansion, this like historic estate. And in the sign, it says like, this shark is not a part of the original estate. Like, it's just like, she's so like, and I get like, but the person who wrote it was like snarky about it, because like all the other, it's just a theme consistently. Like there was one where they had this massive metal structure or whatever that apparently was like kind of used for like fixing different things. Like you basically sit inside it, and it was just like propelled by a crane and just take you straight to the bottom of any water. And I was like, that's a good way to die. Like,
got my foot stuck under that one.
Yeah, seriously. But anyway, it was like, well, this was discovered by so and so or something like that. It was like, and it was like, it clearly, it was in the bottom of Lake Superior, and then it was something like, clearly it is now not in the lake, bottom of Lake Superior or something like that. And it was just like, so like little things that were like not like aggressively funny, but like, oh, cute. And then their website and stuff, we'll put a link to their website. There's some like snarky fun stuff on their website too, that they're consistent in their voice, and they're consistent in how they kind of play around with that. And honestly, it's a whole bunch of like UMD college students that are running a lot of their marketing. Like, so I'm like,
that's probably
all right, run with it. A bunch of history majors that work there.
I could imagine, and maybe a couple librarians too. You know, librarian majors. They're so snarky. I love them. If you ever search the hashtag librarians of Instagram and you just start reading their posts, you are going to meet a whole nother world of brand tone, like of snarky brand tone.
Yeah. Tell us about the brand tone of Wendy's on tweets and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Wendy's is like known for just being ridiculously snarky to people.
Just roasting people.
I think like, I don't even remember if this is, I think there was a time where they actually had like public roasts where it was like, please roast me. And then the brand person for Wendy's was like actually intentionally roasting people that requested it. Anyways, so they do a lot of stuff on purpose to like almost like sling hash at other fast food brands. But
so
it's so funny in how they do it. Like they kind of play off each other sometimes. So you should definitely check out their stuff. But the thing is, they were like, we need this. And they decided to go with that because of their branding is a little girl, right? This little redheaded girl on their logo. And somebody actually started like posting stuff that they were just like, oh my goodness, this person needs to be our brand tone. And they actually reached out to that lady and asked her to start running all of their Twitter comments and stuff, which was hilarious. And I think she's still doing it. So thinking about brand tone, when Ruthie was like, have someone be in charge of it, it's important to think about your core values first. And one of the very first episodes, I think it was the first episode we ever did, was talking about your core values.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those down, it's really going to be hard to have consistent branding. But part of brand consistency is also knowing this is what I do, and then choosing to show up at things that are similar in terms of, if you're going to go someplace, be represented or whatever, showing up on brand. And that even goes into your personal brand, what you look like. There's a whole lot of elements of people who are willing to pay more. I just actually was writing an article, or somebody asked me to contribute to an article for a construction magazine or whatever recently, and they said, hey, is it matter what you look like professionally as a contractor? I'm like, well, absolutely. If you have a crew that has all of the same outfits on every single day and they look professional, when somebody calls you for a quote and you say, this is my price, and it's significantly higher than a competitor, they're not going to question it because they see your professionalism and they're paying for quality. And that's the psychology aspect of it. How you look and present yourself is part of your brand. And that also applies to why so many companies have all of these dress code policies. I mean, can you imagine back in the day when all of these baby boomers just had a fit when people didn't want to wear um, didn't want to wear suits to the office? And now it's like, can you please just not wear yoga pants every day? We've come a long ways in our branding shaping of what we need to look like at work, right? But know that that's part of your brand. So whatever your logo is, or whatever you say, this is what I'm saying my business is about. How are you reflecting that in how you act and in what you're saying, in the terminology that you're using, even about who are your customers? Are they clients? Are they buyers? Try to find out what those terms are that you use all the time, so that if you do have to hand off your marketing, it's going to be a lot easier to have a consistent brand and you don't have to monitor every single post, because hey, you've got somebody that is well versed and familiar with who you are and what you stand for, and they know your industry, and then they can speak exactly to the things that you've been wanting to educate people about.
Yeah. And I think that kind of also goes with like when you were talking about consistency and even apparel and things like that, like just really, I don't know, like that there's, you can be professional but also be casual. And I was thinking about one time, one of my mentors in high school was talking about just laughing about kids these days and how they don't know what they should be wearing, and he was like, Ruthie, I once had a 18-year-old guy ask me if he can wear shorts to the office. And I stared at him and I was like, can you wear shorts to the office? And I was just like thinking about that. And then he was like, Ruthie, you cannot wear shorts to the office. And I was just like, okay, duly noted. You can't wear shorts to the office. And it's just like, but it's just like those kind of things are important to know as a company. Like, know the place that you're applying for if you're going to do that as a job. And if you are an employer, if you're a small business, be open about those things with your employees so that they're aware. And it doesn't have to be like a awkward conversation later. Like, you just be, this is our brand. This is who we are. This is the kind of apparel that we wear to the office, and this is why.
Oh my goodness. I recently talked with somebody that was a salesperson and was trying to sell to a pretty big company, and he had a those cute little hats. I'm trying to remember the name of them. They're newsboy caps. Ooh, yeah. He was adorable. He was probably like, I don't know, maybe in his 60s, but he's telling me that one day he showed up to a CEO's office wearing his newsboy cap to talk to them about a new project that they were going to build for them, whatever. And he was like telling me how upset he was because the man literally said at the end of the meeting, if you ever show up to my office again wearing a hat, you will be kicked out and you will never have business with us again. And I was like, whoa. Like, he was like, yeah, that was like at the start of my career. I was just shocked. And I was thinking about that, like, wow, how intense is that? But also think about how you're branding. Like, you dress not just for yourself and what you represent, but you dress for how you want to get the business that you want.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So now we are going to transition to the Sister Garth portion of our episode, and I'm just going to read off some Wendy's tweets that I think are hilarious. So this one,
did you just go Google those?
Yeah. So this one is from Brooklyn. It says, at Wendy's, I see that at McDonald's is coming out with spicy nuggets. What are your feelings? And Wendy said, must have scraped up all the BK leftovers and slapped McPrice tag on it. And I thought that was so funny. And then There's another one that says, at Wendy's, my friend wants to go to McDonald's. What should I tell him? And then at this guy, it says, find new friends. And then this one says, at Wendy's, can you find me the nearest McDonald's? And then it's a reply with just a picture of a garbage can. It says, at Wendy's, needs to get rid of the square burger. It seems a little too artificial. And then this reply, it says, unlike the supernatural circle shape that hamburgers come in when you pick them off the vine. Oh man, there's so many, and they're so funny. I'll post a link to this blog, and then you guys can look at them for yourself.
I'm just dying at like the thought process that probably went into like, I must prepare to snarky roast someone. Like,
but in also like a not super aggressive way, like no lawsuits can be filed here. Like just, you got to think through these things. Like if you're gonna go snarky,
straight sarcasm. All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We will see you next week.